Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game from Scratch, and today we're going to do something fun. Today we're going to create our first video game from scratch using MakeCode. So if you have never made a video game in your life, stay tuned and you're going to see how to do so. Even if you have, this could actually be kind of entertaining for you because Microsoft's MakeCode is exceptional fun. And if you have someone in your life you want to get into the world of game development, this could be the perfect tool to do so. By the way, MakeCode, what the heck am I talking about? Well, it is an all-in-one game engine editor creation tool runtime available on the internet. arcade.makecode.com, completely free. Head on over there, and as you will see, we're going to be creating this game. Not exactly this one, we're going to create something, I guess, inspired by this game. Over here you can see the logic or code that goes together to make it, but more importantly, oops, I went the wrong way. I want to expand this guy out. This is our end result. We're going to create Totally Not Pac-Man. So what you can see here, you get the on-screen controls to handle it. There's keyboard equivalents, by the way. And what we're going to do, you have a nice little intro scene, and then we're going to make this game where your goal is to survive as long as possible. Yeah, that's basically it. So here we go. This is a game we're going to create. There's the intro. Here we go. And then ghosts are going to keep spawning, and then when they get you, you die. So that's what we're going to set out to create today, and we're going to do that from the very beginning. So I'm going to head on over to the home, and let's start a new project. So again, head in your browser, go to arcade.makecode.com, and then create a new project. The project we are going to create is called, I don't know, YouTube Demo Project 90210. And you've got options here. You're actually going to see you can code in JavaScript and Python if you want. So you can use this as kind of a launching ground into working in other environments. But I'm going to stick mostly to blocks. So I'm going to stick 100% to blocks in this case. But just know, if it doesn't have the functionality you want, you can actually extend it or create your own functionality in either of those two programming languages. All right, so here we are. In our clean slate environment. You see here, we got literally nothing going on. As we add new functionality, it will automatically update in our game over there. Now, if you're new to the world of game development, there is something called an event loop. This is every single game or game engine has something like this. It's a thing that just runs over and over and over and over again until the game is done. And at that, you have various different states in the event loop. You have things like where it begins, then it starts looping, and it ends. The simplest version possible. So what we're going to do is, in the beginning, we're going to set up the character. So to create the character, we have something called an animated graphic or a sprite. To do so, come here to your assets, and we're going to create a new animation for our main character. Click New Asset, and we're going to pick Type of Animation. And once we've got that, I'm going to go here. We'll pick the yellowish color. I'll click the circle tool here. We'll go roughly to the center of the screen. Unfortunately, you can't perfectly center because this is 16 by 16 really big pixels. So what I'm going to do is get as close as I can, say right here, and then we'll just expand out. One more. All right, let's try that one more time. Here, expand out. All right, so there we mostly filled the screen. It's about as good as we're going to get while still being lazy. I'm going to go here to the flood fill tool, and we're going to fill the inside of it. And so now all we need left to do is add some characters. So let's add an eye and the beginnings of a mouth. All right, so there is our character to start with. We have a single frame of animation. All we really need for this guy is 2 frames of animation. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and click this little button down here, and we're going to duplicate our frame. So now we have our second frame. I'm going to go up here now to the erase tool, and I'm going to go right about here, and I'm just going to diagonally erase into the mouth like so. There. And I'm going to get rid of all the inside. All right, so now we have a Totally Not Pac-Man with a bit of an overbite. You can see here the frame rate is every 200 milliseconds or 5 times per second is what that works out to. And we can preview it. There we go. So there is our character. Now to keep things simple, I'm going to set this so that we only face one direction ever. Now I'm going to go here and I'll call this main character and click done. All right, so we now have a character we can use in the world. We're going to go back to our blocks, and in our start, we're going to go ahead and set up that character. So first thing we're going to need to do is create a new sprite. So come here to the sprites tag right here, and you will find it right there. So we're creating a new sprite of type character. Now I'm not going to actually define the sprite. So if you had a sprite defined, or you can grab from one of their prefabs, you could fill it in right there. But since we're using an animated sprite, we're going to set this up slightly different. So we're just going to create a variable of type mysprite of type player. And there's going to be other types. We'll get back to that later on. But we're good with that as our default. And now, as I mentioned earlier on, we're going to animate it. For anything you're looking for, so in this case, we're using animations. And we're going to use this guy right here. You can also find them via the search. So animate, and there you can find them as well. So we're going to grab this guy right here. We're going to animate our sprite. And we're going to, so it's mysprite right there. Again, we'll stick with mysprite. So that is the consistent variable. And we'll pick for frames. We'll go up here to my assets. And we will pick our animation and then click done. So there we've said we're going to animate this sprite with our animation. This is the speed. So this is going to update at 5 frames per second. Now the key thing here is you're going to want to do this over and over and over again until your game is done. So turn loop on. There we go. So we just created our character in the world. And there he or she is. It's exciting stuff. That's all that's required to create the animated sprite from the very beginning. Now what we probably want to do is actually animate that guy. So when we press the keys or use our on-screen keys here, which by the way, the arrow keys and the WASD keys are the same effect here, we want to actually go ahead and, move that guy around a bit. So in that case, what we need to do is define some movement logic. Now this is going back to the game loop I was talking about. So at the very beginning you have the game starts, this is called once, but then you have something called a game loop. And this happens over and over and over again. And each time it does something called update. So you're going to come here at game, and you're going to see on game update, so you can have it call it every single time that it updates. We're going to go here, and anything contained within these blocks. So you can see these container blocks that have blocks that fit inside of them. So every time the game updates, everything within this block is going to be called. And we're going to actually just go ahead and move our sprite. So go back here to, I think it's under controllers. Yeah, so here you can see, move my sprite with buttons. And we're going to go ahead, drop that guy in there. My sprite is exactly what we want to use. We can expand out with buttons and set how much. So we're going to move by 200 and 200 in each direction. So that's 200 this way, 200 this way, 200 that way, 200 that way. Now what 200 actually represents, it shouldn't really matter. I think it's pixels per second, but just use a number until you are happy with it. So now with this in here, so every single time the game loop runs, it's going to run over and over and over again, it's going to call this code. So if we press a button, it's going to move the sprite. So now we watch, and there we go. We can now move our sprite around, and we can do it again. The WASD keys does the same thing. Looking pretty good. Now the problem here is we are in an empty void. That's not the most exciting thing in the world. So speaking of world, let's create one. And I love how this updates as you go. So as we add new animations in, they just show up over here. So now what we need to do is create a world. A world is another asset type. I'm going to go over here and we're going to create an asset type, a new asset. Now, we could create a tile. We could create our own world tiles, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use their built-in stuff, but instead what we're creating is a tile map. Now, what this is basically, see these? Each one of these is a tile. It's just a graphic. And what you're doing is reusing these little tiles to create something called a tile map. You can change the size of the map. The default is 16 by 16. You can change it down here. We're going to stick with the 16 by 16 value, and we're just going to give a base tile. So this is going to be our floor for the entire world. I'm going to flood fill, and we'll start with that. So there is our map by default. Nothing too exciting. And now what we're going to do is make the outside edge a wall. We're going to click this guy here and use the wall tool. Now what this does is makes it so that, oops, I did not mean to flood fill. Nice thing is you can undo. Control Z. I'm going to go to paint individual tool, and then I'm just going to go across like this. By the way, there's a line tool which you could also use to make this a lot easier, but I like making life hard on myself. All right, so there is the boundary of our world to play in, so you can't walk beyond that or go anywhere beyond that. And now what we're going to do is add a couple of things in the world. So let's go here. We'll use these guys. So this guy right here, we'll create there. We're actually going to create this box of tiles. So these are like little boundaries that our player can't go into. Let's fill that guy with a color. Over like so. All right, so this is a little area we can't walk into. I'm going to go over here. There's something called the marquee tool right here. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to make this guy. So first we're going to do a wall over top of it. So that means we can't walk in this area. So now that that's done, grab the marquee tool and select it like so. And then I'm going to copy this by doing like a Control plus C and then a Control plus V, paste that into the world. And let's just place a couple of these around the world. Control C, Control V. I'll put one there. Control C, Control V. And let's put one right there. Now, something we're going to use a little bit later on. Let's go down here to miscellaneous tiles, and we're just going to put some markers in the corner. So we're going to grab that tile right there, go into single edit mode, this guy, and we'll just put 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are where we're going to spawn the enemies later on. All right, so we've got our level. I'll keep calling it level. That's fine by me. And done. All right, so see here, we now have a level type available. Let's go back to our blocks. And now we need to go ahead and actually, when we start our game, we're going to have to set our level up. So we just come down here. Levels are available in scene. And you're going to see set tile map 2. And we'll just drop that guy in here after we create our player animation. And now we just go ahead and select, go to My Assets, and go to our created level, and press done. So there we've set the tile map to our new level. See it updated. Now this is not really ideal because we are currently kind of stuck in the world. Probably not what we want. So we're going to go back to our scene again, and there's going to be a function here called place, and then you can say on random or at a location. I'm just going to go ahead and do a location and drop this guy here. As I mentioned earlier, the tile map is 16 by 16 cells. So we'll put this at column 8, row 8, which is roughly in the middle. And now you're going to see when it updates. Oh, that's not good because we're currently off screen. So we've got one other thing we need to do, and that is, again, back to the scene stuff. There is a camera control in here. Camera, you can put the camera into a certain location, but instead what we want to do is say, hey, camera, follow our sprite. So now the camera will follow the character around the world. So if the world is bigger than the screen, we are good to go. So now we can navigate around. Yeehaw! So you see we're bouncing into the one wall at the end. Let me just, keys, wall. So that outer row of tiles is impassable, right? Because there's a wall there. I should probably actually have made it a different color, so that makes more sense. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go back here. We'll open our map back up. So by the way, you can edit these things at any time whatsoever. So on this wall layer of tiles, we'll just go pick a tile that makes sense to be the outside. So let's pick the miscellaneous. Here, we'll do this brick wall. And here, I'll finally use the line tool. There. 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 And there. All right, there we go. By the way, there's code in there. There's facilities in here so that you can switch between different levels. You don't have to be a single level. But in this particular case, so that this doesn't get outrageously long, we'll just keep it to a single level only. All right, so our asset is done. We'll go back over here to our blocks. All right, so we now have character. It's going to load up in a second. And we can walk in until we hit the brick wall. And good to go. Now, what you probably want to have in a game is, conflict. So what we need now is an enemy of some kind. I'm going to show you how to create a function now. You don't have to do this way, but this is a way of organizing your code into reusable bits. So if we want to create multiple enemies, which we're going to do in a little bit to add some challenge here, you can do so with the function. We're going to make a new function. You could say add a parameter. These are things that are passed into the function when it's called. We're not going to use any parameters in this case. We're just going to go ahead and say done. And we're going to rename this function create enemy. All right, so this isn't called automatically. We're going to have to manually call create enemy at some point in time. But now let's give the logic to actually create the enemy. Now, the next thing we're going to need is an enemy of sorts. So let's go back to our assets. And once again, we're going to create another animation. And this time, let's go with blue. I'm going to just freehand this one. So it's going to be something like okay, that was terrible, but it'll get the job done. All right, so there we go. And then hereabouts, let's just drop that across. Let's add another thing at the top there, and we will flood fill this guy really quickly. All right, there we go. So we just created our ghost. Let's go back to a single frame here. We'll just drop there, go over by 2, like so, over by 3, like so. All right, there we go. So now we have these two, and these two in the mix, and let's add some eyeballs. So boom, 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 boom. Let's add a black dot, like so, like so. All right, there's our very angry looking, weirdly shaped ghost. And we're just gonna go ahead and create a second frame of this guy. And really all we're going to do is come here with the eraser, and we'll just get rid of that line. And now I'm gonna go ahead with the blue and just move it over one. Except in that case. All right, so what that should do, you can see our animation up here. There is our ghost moving around. And let's weird out his eyeballs a bit. So let's stop that one. We'll go to the second frame. What color am I? Okay, I'm in blue here. Let's just go blare there. Let's give ourselves a cross-eyed ghost. All right, so here you can see there is our enemy now. Obviously, you can spend a lot more time making these things. So we'll call this guy enemy and done. Now, again, I want to point out to you, there are a ton of assets built in. So if you don't want to make your own, just come into the gallery and you're going to find there's a lot here to work from. There's more community stuff that you can grab and import as well. So if you'd rather just work with someone else's assets instead of creating your own like I have in this example, perfectly your option if you wish. All right, so now we've done that. We have an enemy sprite to create. We can mostly actually, the logic we want is pretty much this logic. So we're going to go ahead and take that guy. Here, let me just, oops. Okay, so copy, and then we paste, and we'll drop that in here, and then we'll copy, and we'll paste, and we'll drop that in there. So it's pretty much the same logic as creating our character, but the difference is this time, we're creating a new variable, and we're gonna call this guy enemy sprite, like so. So set enemy sprite to sprite of type enemy. All right, so it knows what it is, and then here we're gonna animate enemy sprite, and in this case, we pick our ghost instead of our main character. All right, so now we've got the ability, it's gonna loop every 200 milliseconds, we're gonna get our angry ghost here. So now we've got the ability to create enemies in the world. Now, one of those things you're gonna probably wanna do is position it somewhere. And that was, I think that's scene. So place sprite on random. And remember when we dropped those dots in the corner before? Well, those are where we're going to spawn this enemy. So now we have the ability to create an enemy in the world. We've got the ability to move our character and the ability to create a character. As I mentioned earlier on, though, with a function, you need to manually call it. So in our start, after we create our map and place our character on it, let's go ahead and create an enemy to chase us down. So now what we need to do is come over here to functions. You're going to see our enemy is here. We'll just drop that in there, and that is a brick just like any other. So now when we run this, you're going to see there is our... Okay, I made a mistake here. I put the wrong character in the wrong spot. So we don't want to put our player into the corner. We want to put the enemy sprite in the corner. All right, let's try that again. So there we go. So now we have an enemy in the world. I'd have to go and find him somewhere. He's going to be on one of these corners. It's going to be the last one I check. Yeah, it's always the last one I check. But there is an enemy. Now, you see, our enemy isn't really doing too much. That's not that exciting. So let's add some logic to our enemy so he chases the player down. All right. This is incredibly easy to do. I forget exactly where it is, so we're going to say, let's see, it's set enemy, yeah, set. So I'll just search. Sprite to follow, set bup to, All right, I'm going to search for set. Instead, I'm going to search for follow. All right, so set my enemy to follow my sprite. And we're going to do here, and we're going to sit here, and we're going to enemy sprite. Okay, kind enemy. I need to set, no, that should work. All right, there we go. So now you see, let's start the game over, and you can see he immediately comes up and done. He hits the character. Now we're going to add a little bit more logic here, because what happens when the character actually hits the player? And now we need to do in handling that one. It's going to be its own standalone thing, and that is an overlap. So we're going to come here, and we're going to search for, instead of follow, we're going to search for overlap. And you're going to see on blah, 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 overlaps, blah, blah, blah. And we'll just drop that one in the world. So this is its own. Again, it's its own container. So this will be checked every single frame, every time the game runs. Each pass through, it's going to see if there was a player overlaps other kind of player. Well, this is going to be if an enemy overlaps another sprite of type player. This is our game over. So what we need to do here is just set. Okay, so this is in game. There's a game over state. So game over, you lose. Now at this point in time, we could add a little bit of sound to the world. So let's go here. You're going to see here, you have a music category right here. And we could say play sound. So what we're going to do is when the player hits us, we're going to play the siren sound like so. And then game is over. And you see there's an automatic game over state. And now he comes in, siren plays, and then game over like so. So now what we can do is, if we wanted to, we can change here, and instead of the dissolve effect there, we have hearts, smiles, starfield. We'll go with melt, which is, I think, so there it was doing confetti. Now when the character comes and hits us, Boom. Now the world melts and we get a game over screen. All right, so we're getting there. We're getting a bit more of a game. Here, let me just maximize this guy up and we'll start it over again. And I'll try to stay away. So what we want to do is stay away from that guy. And the AI is going to keep trying to follow us. And then we are going to die. Okay, that's pretty... we're getting there. This is definitely a much more complete game now. Now let's add a little bit more logic. What we probably want to do is some kind of a score. So you see here, on game logic, every frame this is going to update. So every time we stay alive for just a little bit more time, we're going to keep adding a little bit more to the logic here. So we're going to say here, this is under game here. There's going to be a score update. I think it was game. All right, here, I'll search. Trying to find these things sometimes is more of a challenge in terms of where they're organized. All right, so here we go. So we're going to set the score or change the score by 1. On the top right corner, when we run our game, you're going to notice now, see, there's a score that keeps counting up. And then when he gets to us, we die. Now, we actually want to be able to say win this game too, right? You don't want to just keep running it forever and ever and ever. So we're going to add a little bit more logic. We're going to show you how to use a conditional, something called an if. So this if is going to be if we've had enough time go by that whatever our threshold is, then instead we've actually won the game. So we're going to need an if block. So this is under logic. So we've got if and then a condition, and then we've also got if else's. So we're going to drop this one in. If so if something is true, then. And what we want to do here is put the logic that we want. Again, under logic here, you can see you put a left-hand value and a right-hand value and an operation to do. So I'm going to say, drop that one in here to the if category. All right, so you see here, we say if, and we'll do greater than or equal to. And this one right here, we're going to do the time. And if we search here, time. So we've got time since start in milliseconds is a predefined value for us. You notice this is round and this is round. If it fits, you can use it. So we're going to basically say, how long has elapsed since we started? And let's say, here, we'll do it really short for the simple example here, is 2,000 milliseconds go by. So if 2,000 milliseconds go by, I'm going to go down and copy this guy and paste. And this is the game over. But in this case, we win. Yay! And now we can say, okay, when we win, let's do confetti effect like so. So now if I can somehow survive for 2 seconds without a ghost getting to me, we will win. Now, you probably want to move it up from 2 seconds because we are making a very easy game. So let's make that, say you got to survive for 5 seconds, like so. Restart our game, and now I have to just basically survive for 5 seconds before the ghost gets to me. There we go, and now we won. Now that isn't necessarily too challenging yet, because what we want to do is basically every X period of time, let's add more ghosts to the world. And we can also increase this up. So let's make it, you got to survive for 20 seconds, which is going to be a bit more challenging, as you are going to see in a second. And now what we're going to do is another block. Instead, we're going to have another event in here. So we've got all these things that are on game update, on start. And now what we're going to do is instead on every period of time. So that is, I think here under game. So on game update every 500 milliseconds. We'll make that every 2 seconds. That's a little fast. Every 5 seconds, what we're going to do is create another enemy. So we'll call our function. This is why reusable code is nice. So there we go. We can now create another enemy. So if I can survive for, so I can demo it. Let's make this 1 second instead. All right. So we're going to end up with a lot of ghosts chasing us. What you probably want to do is make this more like 5 seconds so that it's actually winnable. I'm still pretty bad at this, even though it's my own game. So there we've got 1 ghost going, 2 ghosts going, and oh, there we go. So I set a new high score, 563. Off it goes. So you've got the basics of a game here. All you're really kind of missing at this point is, let's say, some kind of a title screen and some background music. Now, I left background music till the end because it really will hurt your ears. And let's start with a title screen first. So we're going to start off here. We're going to create a new function like so. And yeah, good. All right. So we'll call this title screen. And this. All right, so this is gonna be the very, very first thing we do. So when we start our game, before we do anything else, we will call our title screen like so. So whatever's here will all be called before we create our sprite or do anything else. So now, all right, I'm gonna stop you so that doesn't keep happening in the background. We're gonna play some music. So that is available under the music category. And we're gonna play a melody like so. Now, melodies are like a simple, quick way of creating music. So you can pull in a gallery so it's someone else's music there, or you can put a note on each line here, like so. All right, so you see how that works? And we can also speed it up. So it's a very simple way of making music, or you can come in here and grab one of their, sure, we'll go with hopeful. All right, so there we go. We have our melody, this is our starting music. We're gonna create a splash screen. Let's come up here for splash, like so. And then here, in there, we'll put our message. Welcome to our awesome game. All right, and then we could do some special effects. So you got start effects, just type the word start. And then we'll do a screen effect, and we could do bubbles. All right, sure, we'll have a bubbly screen effects. Then we can show some text at the bottom. So if you want to just display some text to your user, or you're creating an RPG style game, you got a text option here. So we can set show long text at the bottom, like so, and then we'll just say here, good luck. We can set a background image, so I'm just kind of showcasing the abilities you could do. So set background image to here, and now let's see if I got something from the gallery, because I don't really want, here, yeah, we'll go ahead with that. All right, so that is our background image for it. And then next we're gonna want to display this for a little bit of time. So if you wanna have it pause on something for a while, predictably enough, you use the pause command. So we'll pause, we'll show our background image and all of our stuff for 2 seconds. And then what we're going to do is get rid of our background image. Oops, did not mean to clone you both. All right, there we go. Come on, just you. Control C, Control V, pop that in, and there to done. Okay, no, I think I need to clear that. All right, so what I'll do, instead of cloning it, because then I can't get rid of it, so I just want to do a blank one, so there is no background image. All right, so drop that in right there. And so we started screen effect, so now we just need to end that effect. So end effect. And this is just me screwing around, by the way. So you could do whatever you want here. You could do nothing at all if you so wish. So we're gonna go ahead, bubbles effect started. So now what we gotta do is shut off our bubbles. All right, so there we go. We've got a title screen that's gonna play a song, send us a splash screen that you have to press A to get rid of, do some bubbles, write the words good luck, show a background image for 2 seconds, and then stop our effect. And then at that point in time, when we get to this line right here, we are here. And then we continue on like normal. So let's go ahead, run our code. So now we have, there's our music, there is our title, our welcome to, I press the A key to get rid of it. There is our prompt, good luck. There is our title screen, so obviously this is where you would put your graphic. And then my bubble effect should have ended. I'm not sure why it didn't end. Start screen, bubbles, end screen, bubbles. Not sure why it did that wrong, but okay, it's either here or there. That is, am I done? I think I might be done. Yeah, I think I'll call that a game for today. We're coming up on the half-hour mark. I showed you the basics of everything you need to create a game here. As you're going to see, MakeCode has all the functionalities in. It's got an emulator to run your game. You can actually export this out for a number of different devices. You should check that out. It's kind of cool. And by the way, everything we saw here, we can switch at any time and see the JavaScript code or the Python code. And as I mentioned earlier on, you can actually create your own extensions, or you can download other people's extensions and make it even more capable of what it can do. So that's really a cool thing about this. You're not stuck in Blocks world. If anytime you want to go ahead and change the code, you can change the code. And by the way, if you make a code edit over here in the Python or JavaScript, it will update in the Blocks side of things, which is really kind of cool. And then finally, when you're done, you can download your game, which you can upload later on. So there's a variety of different hardware devices that are out there. You also have the ability to get a link to it that you can just share with other people. But as you can see, there's a number of actual hardware devices you can download for, including some Arduino-based things. It's all kind of like tinkering do-it-yourself projects that are built around this. But there's also the ability, where did that ability, oh, right here. You can go ahead and share, and basically you click publish, and it'll give you a link. And most of the time, that link works. Some of the time, that link doesn't. But all you have to do is send that link to somebody, and they can jump in and play your game. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is creating your first simple game using MakeCode. It's a very cool project. Let's see it one last time. Let's see our creation in action. So welcome to our awesome game. Good luck. Woohoo! And now I'm going to try to dodge ghosts for, I think it was 5 seconds. My bubble effect eventually turned off. That's the only bug I have right now in the existing code. Oh no! All right, I can't even win my own game. But you get the idea behind it. It's definitely one of the best ways to get someone started in the world of game development. The nice thing is, since you have that other integration there, that you've got the code there, you got the extensibility there, you could have like an experienced coder extends the functionality for like a kid or someone just getting started, or you can yourself start, make a game until you hit your limitations, and then you start coding to figure out, oh, here's how I can do more. It's a really cool project, and it is completely and utterly free. So that was it. I hope you enjoyed making your first game in MakeCode. Let me know what you think. Comments down below, and I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.